1. Ministers take action against water pollution in England and Wales. 2. Thames water crisis. UK water reforms explained. 3. Why water pollution is surging. The shocking truth. 1. Ministers take action against water pollution in England and Wales. Our water is under siege, and the fight to protect it is far from over. Ministers in England and Wales have pledged to address every form of water pollution, promising decisive action across the board. While sewage spills into our rivers have dominated public discussion, the government is set to tackle lesser-known, yet equally damaging sources, such as agricultural runoff and chemicals from road traffic. And this is the part most people miss. While sewage pollution draws heated debates, issues like animal waste and fertilizer residues from farms, along with contaminants from vehicles, contribute substantially to the toxic cocktail in our waterways. The upcoming report, led by Sir John Cunliffe, a former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, is scheduled for release Monday morning. This comprehensive review of England's and Wales' water industry is expected to suggest major changes, including the potential abolition of Ofwat, the current water industry regulator. With pollution incidents rising sharply, a recent data set shows a 60% increase in serious cases involving water companies in 2024 compared to the previous year. The pressure is mounting on ministers to present a robust plan. In fact, Environment Secretary Steve Reed, who is anticipated to speak on Sunday via a government broadcast, emphasized that the damage isn't confined to sewage alone. Pollution from sewage, agriculture, and vehicles is poisoning our rivers. We are cracking down on sewage pollution from water companies, but we need to tackle all sources of pollution, including from farming. That's the only way to clean up our country's rivers, lakes, and seas, Reed stated, underlining the wide-ranging nature of the pollution crisis. But here's where it gets controversial. While the government focuses on overhaul and regulation, critics have raised their voices on several issues. For example, moments earlier this year, new proposals to ease regulations for chicken farms sparked harsh criticism from green groups, who warned that such changes might worsen the water quality crisis. According to an analysis by the Independent Water Commission released last month, 45% of water bodies in England are already affected by pollutants emanating from agriculture, just slightly more than the 44% tainted by the water industry's runoff. Moreover, nearly 20% of water bodies are vulnerable to pollutants from roads and transport, which include oils, chemicals, and residues from tire and brake wear, particularly problematic during heavy rains. Even the lingering contamination from chemicals used in former metal mines remains a long-term challenge. The Environment Agency has stepped up its inspections on farms, signaling that more stringent measures are inevitable, especially in light of the persistent issues coming from both agriculture and mining activities. Politically, the spotlight on water pollution is brighter than ever, influenced by public opinion favoring drastic actions like renationalizing the water industry or even imprisoning executives deemed responsible for persistent spills. The Liberal Democrats, in particular, have been vociferous on the issue, integrating it as a central theme in their recent election campaign. As we move forward, these proposed new measures will soon be unveiled after the Cunliffe report. This evolving situation raises questions. Is the government doing enough to protect our water, or are these measures merely a stopgap? What do you think about the potential abolition of Ofwat and the controversial regulatory changes to agriculture? We invite you to share your thoughts and engage in the discussion. Your opinion matters in this pivotal debate over our environmental future. 2. Thames water crisis. UK water reforms explained. Imagine a world where one of the most essential resources, water, is at the center of a national crisis. That's the reality Britain is facing as its government prepares to unveil sweeping reforms to rescue a failing water sector, with Thames Water, the country's largest water company, on the verge of collapse. The stakes are high, and the outcome could reshape the future of water management in the UK. Picture this: a person wading through the muddy banks of the River Thames during low tide, searching for artifacts in an organized mudlarking event. This serene scene belies the turmoil beneath the surface, as Britain's government is poised to announce measures to fix its crumbling water sector. Thames Water, a company serving 16 million customers in southern England, is teetering on the brink of failure and the government is scrambling to prevent a catastrophic collapse that could cost taxpayers billions. The crisis has been brewing for 18 months, with Thames Water struggling to stay afloat amid mounting debts and crumbling infrastructure. If the company fails, the government would be forced to intervene, adding to an already strained public budget. But here's where it gets controversial. Some argue that nationalizing Thames Water might be the only way to save it, while others insist that a regulatory overhaul could provide the lifeline it needs. Last year, Britain launched a comprehensive review of the privatized water industry in England and Wales. The sector is in desperate need of investment to repair aging infrastructure and address the growing problem of sewage spills into rivers and lakes, which have sparked public outrage. John Cunliffe, the former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, is leading the review and has proposed significant changes. These include overhauling regulations to reduce investment risks, merging regulators to provide clearer guidance to companies, and introducing new standards for river bathing. Cunliffe's interim report in June emphasized the need for more predictable regulation to attract stable, long-term investors. He argued that water companies must become more appealing to investors to secure the funding needed for critical infrastructure upgrades. But this is the part most people miss. The success of these reforms hinges on whether the government can balance the need for stricter regulations with the flexibility required to keep companies like Thames Water financially viable. Environment Minister Steve Reed acknowledged very severe failures of regulation when the review was launched last October, hinting that Ofwat, the water industry's financial regulator, could be scrapped entirely. Thames Water's creditors have offered a rescue deal worth approximately £5 billion. $6.7 billion, but they are demanding a regulatory reset in return. This could mean more lenient pollution targets, reduced penalties, and extended timelines for delivering improvements. The scale of the problem became clear on Friday when data revealed a 60% increase in serious pollution incidents in 2024 compared to the previous year. Thames Water was responsible for 44% of the most severe incidents, but all 9 water companies in England showed consistently poor performance. Thames Water's chief executive, Chris Weston, described the company as extremely stressed and operating in very difficult circumstances after reporting a £1.65 billion annual loss. To make matters worse, Thames Water suffered a setback in June when U.S. private equity firm KKR, its preferred bidder, pulled out of an earlier rescue plan. KKR cited regulatory risks as a factor in its decision, stating that it would not have been able to meet public expectations for the timing of improvements. Thames Water now faces £1.4 billion in pollution fines and penalties over the next 5 years, a burden that could push it over the edge. The government is walking a tightrope, trying to reduce water pollution while avoiding a Thames Water bankruptcy that would add the company's £17 billion debt to the public ledger. Finance Minister Rachel Reeves is already grappling with fiscal constraints, and a collapse could push her to the brink of breaking her fiscal rules. The government has repeatedly stated that it is closely monitoring Thames Water, with Environment Minister Steve Reed confirming that preparations for a special administration regime, a form of temporary nationalization, have been stepped up. So what do you think? Is nationalization the only way to save Thames Water, or could a regulatory overhaul provide the solution? Could stricter regulations backfire by making it harder for companies to attract investors? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective on this critical issue. 3. Why water pollution is surging, the shocking truth. Imagine turning on the tap or strolling by a river, only to realize that despite all the protests, promises, and even higher water bills, our water is getting dirtier by the year. That's the shocking truth behind the rising tide of water pollution that's leaving everyone frustrated and concerned. You might think that after years of public outcry and regulatory pushes, things would be better, but actually, pollution incidents have skyrocketed by 60% from 2023 to 2024 alone, according to recent reports from sources like Sky News. This isn't just a minor blip. It's a clear sign that our efforts aren't paying off as hoped. Water companies have been upfront about their shortcomings, admitting they're not meeting the mark, but they often point to external factors like the unusually wet weather in 2024. In simple terms, when it rains heavily, sewer systems that handle both rainwater and wastewater can overflow, leading to spills that contaminate rivers and streams. For example, think of an old pipe system that's like a clogged drain in your home. Add a downpour, and it overflows everywhere. But here's where it gets controversial. Data from the Environment Agency shows that this weather excuse doesn't hold water. Serious pollution events have climbed by 30% since 2016, and this marks the third year in a row of increases. Their detailed reports highlight that the real culprits are ongoing underinvestment and shoddy maintenance of our aging infrastructure. To break it down for newcomers, this means that for decades, not enough money has been spent on upgrading pipes, pumps, and treatment plants. So when storms hit or demand rises, the systems simply can't handle it, resulting in more spills and environmental damage. And this is the part most people miss. The problem isn't uniform across all water providers. Companies like United Utilities and Northumbrian Water have managed to keep their pollution incidents relatively low, while others, such as Southern, Anglian, and especially Thames Water, the biggest player in England, are leading the pack in terms of contamination events. It's almost like a scoreboard no one wants to top. On a brighter note, there's some progress with transparency. More firms are now self-reporting incidents than ever before, which is a step toward accountability. However, it's worth noting that for the most critical Category 1 incidents in 2024, these are the severe ones that can harm wildlife, contaminate drinking water, and pose health risks to communities. Only 4 were flagged by the companies themselves, with the rest being reported by outsiders like environmental groups or the public. Of course, it's tempting to put all the blame on the water companies, but the story runs deeper. The upcoming report from the Independent Water Commission is set to propose a major overhaul of the industry, potentially even getting rid of the regulator Ofwat, which has been criticized for not having enough power to enforce changes. But here's a controversial twist. While companies bear responsibility, successive governments have played a big role by pushing for lower bills to keep voters happy, yet failing to give regulators the tools to stop risky financial practices. This has led to a focus on short-term savings over long-term investments in our water systems, leaving us with outdated infrastructure that's costly to fix now. For instance, instead of funding new pipes or advanced treatment tech, resources were diverted, exacerbating the problem over time. In the end, there's no easy or inexpensive way out of this mess, as years of neglect have built up a backlog of issues that demand serious attention and funding. But what do you think? Should we be holding water companies more accountable, or is the government's hands-off approach equally to blame? Maybe there's a middle ground where better regulations could balance affordability with environmental protection. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's spark a conversation about how we can turn this around.